Hi, welcome to Caregiver Cast. My name is Mary Elaine Petrucci, your host. My guest today is Samantha Rawlinson, who will be talking to us about cardiovascular disease in women. And before we start the interview, I will give you some information about Samantha. Samantha Rawlinson is a registered nurse, health coach, who works with women who have tried everything to lose weight and have more energy, but end up feeling like nothing works, to transition to a plant-based diet so they can experience wellness in every aspect of their life. Samantha believes that by changing to a plant-based diet, you can prevent and/or reverse almost any disease process that plagues women, such as obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and other diseases caused by excessive inflammation in the body. So if you've tried it all and nothing seems to work and you're ready to finally take back your health and your life, then it's time to talk with Samantha and start living your best life yet. Welcome, Samantha, to Caregiver Cast.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit how you went from being a registered nurse with all of those many hats that you have to use during the day to being a health coach.
Well, I recently actually just left. I was a school nurse, just recently left that, but I have kind of looked into coaching for a while, wasn't sure what niche to look into. And I myself changed to a plant-based diet about a little over 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I lost 14 pounds in 2 months. I've kept it off. Yes. There was no counting calories that I didn't try. And it's been, I don't even think about it. I eat what I want. And I realized that my niche was right there in front of me, that I wanted to help people live their best life and protect their heart. Heart disease runs very heavily on both sides of my family. My grandfather died at 67 from a heart attack. And I think almost anybody I know that's over the age of 50, they're on some kind of blood pressure medicine or cholesterol medicine, and it can be prevented.
So give us an idea about the cardiovascular disease in women. Tell us how prevalent it is and why using a plant-based diet helps that particular condition.
So women are actually more at risk of having a heart attack than men. And and only about 50% of women realize that cardiovascular disease is a #1 killer. So half our population is not even aware. And women have symptoms that men don't necessarily have. They have the like a dull chest pain. They don't necessarily, men have more of the indigestion. Women have pain in the neck, jaw, and throat. And that's very uncommon with men. And they sometimes have pain in their upper abdomen or in their back. Yeah, and you would not think of that. They also sometimes have nausea, vomiting, and they're just very fatigued. So those are a few things that women have that men just don't. And transitioning to a plant-based diet, they can reduce the risk of death from cardiovascular disease by 40%.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That is amazing.
It's huge. And when I read these numbers, I'm like, oh my gosh, more people need to know about this. They can reduce coronary heart disease by 40%. And by changing to a plant-based diet, you can fully or partially open the blocked arteries in up to 91% of patients. So all those stints that we do in a year on all these patients could be prevented.
So, that is just amazing that changing one simple thing like your diet can make so
Mhm.
much difference.
Yes. It can also reduce the risk of hypertension by 34%.
Mm,
And as we all know, it actually, well, actually, I guess most people don't know, it can reduce your help with weight loss because you're eating mainly plants. And I'm not
mm.
saying that you can never eat anything else. I do. And
Mhm.
but you just, there's so many options out there with a plant-based diet that people don't realize.
I think you're right. What you mentioned a few things. What are some of the risk factors of heart disease?
Um, Diabetes is actually a risk factor, and most people do not know that. Actually, the more I read, I didn't realize how much diabetes plays into heart disease. So somebody who's diabetic, that's a risk factor. Being overweight or being obese, physical inactivity, drinking too much alcohol, smoking, stress,
Mm,
and actually can be a big risk factor for heart disease.
okay, so I can understand diabetes runs in my mother's side of the family,
Mhm.
and her brother had diabetes, and I guess he had a silent heart attack. How does that happen?
Um, People they don't feel the symptoms, and they have, I can't think of what the term is right now, but they have these symptoms and they have these mini heart attacks. And some people just have, I think they call it a silent heart attack because it happens so fast. You don't realize it. And
Mm.
a lot of times it happens in their sleep.
Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know that. That's very useful information. So what are some of the, to reduce all these risk factors of heart disease, what can caregivers do in terms of transitioning themselves and the person that they're caring for to a plant-based diet?
So it's actually really simple. You would think that I, I know some of the things I hear from people is, oh, you're not going to get enough protein, and you don't, it's too hard to change. And it really isn't. I thought a lot of these things and I'm thinking, I can't do this. And then I did it and it's so much easier. You're going to eat mainly plants. Let me just start with, most people don't know what a plant-based diet is. So let me just tell you that real quick. So a plant-based diet is a diet that's primarily from plant sources. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's not just fruits and vegetables, but your legumes, your tofu, quinoa, your grains, all your grains, nuts.
Mm,
People don't even think of that. Nuts and seeds are a huge category that we forget about.
mhm.
And a lot of diets are like, oh, there's too much fat. There really isn't. In the overall health benefits you get from those things.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So there's different types of plant-based diets. And for some people, it means a strict that they're not eating any animal products. And for the most part, that's what I do. But then there's others that will occasionally eat meat or fish or dairy. They just don't, it's not a primary source in their diet. So, and then there's a whole food plant-based diet, and they don't eat anything processed. They are as close to nature as possible. I personally don't think I could ever do that.
I don't know if I could or even go to like the vegan diet.
Yeah.
That would be a
And
little extreme for me.
there are vegans that go back and forth and they'll say they're plant-based, and because vegans have a bad name, but vegan is a lifestyle, whereas plant-based is more just your diet.
it's more a lifestyle, I think.
Yes, it is. So I guess they're both lifestyles, but with veganism, they don't buy anything that's animal related, or whereas a plant-based, it's just your diet. I think I got off topic a little bit. So the things that you can do to switch from a traditional diet to a plant-based diet,
Mhm.
just starting with decreasing your meat once a week. I think a lot of people have heard of the meatless Mondays. Start with one day. This time of year, I know a lot of Catholics don't eat meat on Wednesdays and Fridays, right?
Right.
Yes. And so that right there, that could start your trend. Let's start with, okay, let's not eat meat on these days and just incorporate it. There's a lot of plant-based meals and sources out there. And that's where I come in, is to help people do that and to help them transition and learn how and what they can cook and what they can eat. Because I was very lost when I first started it.
Oh, I know. I'm vegetarian, but
Yeah.
it's really hard to know what to eat, because I know there was a theory many years ago that you have to have rice and beans to make a complete protein. And I thought, if I have to really think about that equation all the time, I just couldn't be a vegetarian. But I see the benefits of eating a plant-based diet, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So can you dispel some of the myths behind eating a plant-based diet?
Yeah. So one of the things I hear is you can't get enough protein. You can get all the protein you need from plants. Tofu has a large amount of protein in it, and I can't think of the number right now, but it's pretty high. Broccoli, of all things, broccoli, kale. I know, when I read that, I was like, really? And that's one of my favorite vegetables. Mushrooms actually have a lot of protein in them. And unfortunately, and this is the thing, is I'm a very, very picky eater. And that's another myth, is I'm too picky, I can't do it. I'm a very picky eater. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I'm like beans. I'm not a bean fan, but I like refried beans if they're really mushed up. So it's a texture issue. So for me, I find the other things that are high in proteins, like I'll have a smoothie and add protein powder to it. And we played around until we found the right protein powder that we liked. And now I can recommend that. Like I said, nuts and seeds, those are amazing proteins. Edamame, which I didn't even know until I started doing all this. So those are some of your proteins that you can get. I hear that's too expensive. I just want to say it is cheaper than eating a normal animal meal, especially right now with the beef prices. Tofu costs almost nothing. I mean, it's $2 for a block of tofu. And it's crazy. Then I also hear that it's too time consuming, and it really is not. And actually this kind of goes along with the it's too expensive part. Like fruits and vegetables, some of that stuff you can get frozen and you can get it pretty cheap. I know in Walmart you can get like a bag of vegetables for $1.07 or something like that. You don't always have to get fresh. Frozen is fine. And that makes for an easier, faster meal, because you could just grab a bunch of frozen things, throw it in a pan and make a little stir fry. I mean, it's a quick, easy meal. When I make rice, I make double the amount. That way I have it there for another day in the week. So there's things like that. It's just like eating a normal, if you're cooking now, it's the same thing. It's just a little bit different. You're cooking different things. So it's still, the other thing I hear is, and I kind of went through this, it's hard to eat out. There's all kinds of places now that you can get a plant-based meal or a vegan meal. One of my very favorite places is Chipotle.
Of course, that or
It's a
Qdoba.
staple.
I know. Really.
Yeah. And it's come, things have come a long way. Like Blaze Pizza now has and I think they're United States wide, and they have the vegan cheese, and it's not normal cheese, but it is so much better than it was even 2 years ago. So, and that's something I try not to eat all the time, but if I really want a pizza, hey, go for it. Or if you're somebody who wants to still eat that cheese, go ahead and have that pizza. Just don't have it every day or every week.
Great advice. So in terms of cardiovascular disease, why is it important to help people adopt a plant-based diet?
For me, it's important because as a nurse, I actually, this sounds really crazy, but nurses and doctors do not learn very much about nutrition in school. Doctors get maybe a semester. I don't even think they get that, to be quite honest. I have a bachelor's degree. I got a whole semester of nutrition. I don't remember any of that. And it was you had so many other things going on, you don't remember it. You get a little bit incorporated into your program, but you don't learn near what we should know. And so over the last couple of years, I've just learned food can heal. And I didn't realize how much food can heal us in so many ways. And so it's important to me to try to reach as many people and transition to a plant-based diet because it's better for us. I think people wouldn't have to worry about losing weight because it would be natural. It wouldn't be something you don't have to count calories. And I think people would realize how much energy they have. They wouldn't have that brain fog of eating junk food. So it's really important, and it's important for our environment too, because eating all these animals is not helping our planet.
You're right, it isn't. And because ranchers have to, and dairy farmers have to pay a lot for just feeding the animals and then injecting them with antibiotics or hormones or who knows what.
And then we're eating those.
Exactly. So by adopting this plant-based diet on a wide scale, how do you think that those cardiovascular risks for women will kind of play out in the future?
If we can get more people to eat plant-based, I think we would see a lot less cardiovascular disease. All the research I've been reading and doing is you can either prevent it. So, the young girls who are in their 20s, 30s, they can prevent this ahead of time. I mean, there's always a risk, especially with family history, but you change that risk by changing how you eat and how you take care of yourself. And I think people my age, 40s, 50s, I'm 53, I'm not on blood pressure medicine, my cholesterol is perfect. I really think that we can reverse cardiovascular disease, or at least slow it down in the people that it's already progressed. Everything I'm reading, it just shows that.
That's fantastic. So tell us, you mentioned a plant-based diet can also heal our bodies. Do you have examples to share with the audience?
Well, I'm trying how they can heal. So the other thing, a plant-based diet can do, it can either decrease or eliminate type 2 diabetes, which is on a rise in our country. Because we're eating the wrong things. And the obesity, that's a big part of that right there. And again, plant-based diet, you really don't have to think about what you're eating unless you're totally a junk food plant-based diet person. And one of the other things I hear, oh, I don't like vegetables. It is amazing how if you learn how to cook vegetables, that they taste so much better, because there's certain vegetables should not be boiled. Let me just say that. They just taste so much better when they are baked, or even the air fryer. I've been traveling with my husband. I've learned how to cook. You can cook just about everything in that air fryer.
That's what I've heard. You can make a million things in there. I haven't tried it yet.
So, you can just, by changing to a plant-based diet and not eating junk all the time, you have more clarity, you feel better, you have more energy. Just overall health, your overall health changes.
So how do we get this message out? Because as you mentioned, a lot of our food has a lot of like high fructose corn syrup, a lot of sugar, a lot of fats, hidden fats and things that we're not even aware of. So what do you think it will take to make a change in our diets so that we can lower the cardiovascular disease, not only in caregivers, but in people that they care for?
I think if one person starts doing it and they spread it through their family, once they realize how good they feel and how easy it is, I think it's a ripple effect. Okay. I know it's only been 2 years for me. My daughter has actually been vegan for 3 years. And I was the one that was like, oh, I could never do that. And then I watched the Game Changers and that was it. That was like, okay, the next day I stopped eating meat. And I'm not kidding. I just have not touched meat since. And I think my husband has decreased his amount. He hasn't totally gone plant-based yet, but he's noticed a difference. His cholesterol has come down. And I know we're talking women, but this is just an example of, it works. I think once they see you feeling good and they see how you're eating and how you feel better, I think people follow with what their other family members do a lot of times.
It's just trying to get that one person in the family
right
to make a difference, especially if you're eating a lot of junk food or you're eating things that aren't good for you.
Right. And you can be, I don't know if you've heard the term junk food vegan, but that you can be a junk food vegan or vegetarian. I mean, some vegetarians have the same problem because they're not eating meat, but they're eating all the wrong things. And I think that if we go plant-based and eat mainly from plants, you're doing your body a lot of good.
Definitely. What 3 things do you recommend for caregivers and the people that they care for in terms of a plant-based diet and understanding how it really affects possibly reverse cardiovascular disease?
The top 3, I'm sorry, what was that? The top 3?
3 takeaways you can give for caregivers in terms of transitioning to a plant-based diet to decrease cardiovascular disease that they have or that the person that they're caring for has?
Okay, so I think the number one, I want to say that's a lot easier than you think it is. Because I think that's the first thing people think is it's hard, and it really is not. Like I said, start with start with one meal a week and then move from there. And then your family will do the same thing. And we didn't touch on it, but the other thing I think is moving your body more. Not necessarily, I think exercise is important. It reduces your risk for a cardiac event. And I'm not saying that, I know they say you have to exercise 30 minutes, 5 days a week. I just feel like moving your body, park a little bit further, go dance in the house with your kids or by yourself, and just moving your body more, not getting off in between commercials. We watch a lot of TV. Even if you don't have commercials, in between your shows, get up, do run in place, do some sit-ups, stretch. We just need to move our bodies more. And then the other thing I think that we need to do is decrease our stress. And I know as caregivers, we tend to not take care of ourselves. And so do one thing a day for you to decrease that stress for you. And that helps you want to eat better because you're taking care of you. So that one thing could be, oh, I'm eating some extra fruit today. So, that you're taking care of you by doing that.
Great advice. I think you're right. Thank you for making it easy for caregivers to make the switch to a plant-based diet. You're right. Exercise definitely plays in with your overall health and what you're eating. And I do like the idea of self-care because that really isn't in the job description of a caregiver.
No.
So it's really great, like you mentioned, to be more mindful of taking care of yourself first before you can help someone else.
That's true.
I hear that you have a free offer for our audience. Can you explain what that is, please?
Yeah, it's a a guide on how to take care of yourself when you're taking care of everyone else. So it's a list of, I think I did 20 things of things you can do for you. And some of them are little things and some are a little bit bigger. Like I said, meditating or doing yoga or go get your nails done. We have to take care of ourselves, especially if we're taking care of everybody else, because they're not going to have us if we don't take care of ourselves.
Oh, totally agree with that. Thank you for that guide. It is pretty frightening to think that 30% of caregivers die before the one that they're caring for. So you're right. Caregivers need to really focus on putting those health benefits into place before they can start helping someone else. Samantha, thank you so much for all the wonderful information about plant-based diets and how it plays into cardiovascular disease in women and what caregivers can do to decrease the risk for cardiovascular disease by making eating a plant-based diet. So thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Most definitely.